Hey, everybody. I hope and pray that you're doing well today. So we come to our word from the word. And today that word is strange. Strange. Now, you may have seen that picture before, but you notice our plan is always to go for things to just go smoothly, man, straight line, make it easy. Yeah, okay, a little bit of hard work, and then we'll get to the finish line and, get to where God would have us to be. And then I love that picture. I mean, it is. It's like God's plan is no, you're gonna have some ups, some downs. You're gonna have some difficulties. Gonna have some things to work through, some things to. You're gonna have to put forth some effort in it, and not everything's gonna come easy. But we know that anything worth doing is going to cost something, and especially anything spiritually, it's going to cost us something. It's going to cost sacrifice of some part of some way. Now, having said all that, here today in Genesis 15, Abram, a part of what he hears, I love how it picks up right from where we left off yesterday. And God says, Abram, I'm going to reward you. I'm going to continue to take care of you. And then Abram, who had this great moment of faith that, hey, I'm not going to allow you, O king of Salem, to think, or excuse me, king of Sodom. Melchizedek was the king of Salem. But the king of Sodom, you're not going to take any of the glory away from God, then say that you made me rich. I'm going to rely on God. But then God says, look, I'm going to multiply your descendants. And Abram says, well, I don't understand how, because I guess you're talking about using my servant. That is my heir. And God says, no, you're going to have one of your own, a child of your own. And now that would sound like one thing to somebody in their 20s, but somebody as old as Abram was at this time, and to think that, I mean, he's 100 when Isaac is actually born. Imagine what was going through his mind. There's no way. God, there's no way. So already God's plan sounded strange to him. I wonder how God's plan sounded when God told him this. Genesis chapter 15. Let's look at verses 13 through 16 today. Then he said to Abram, know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years. And also the nation whom they serve I will judge. Afterward they shall come out with great possessions. Now, as for you, you shall go to your fathers in peace. But you shall be buried at a good old age. But in the fourth generation, they shall return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet complete. There's a whole lot in those few verses. But if we just kind of look on the surface, one, he said, look, your descendants are they're gonna spend 400 years in a land that is not theirs. They're going to be oppressed, and they're going to serve the Egyptians. Is who he's talking about. For 400 years, and 430 to be exact, he said for 400 years they're going to be there serving. But don't worry, when they leave, they're going to have a whole lot of possessions. Now that doesn't make sense. That sounds like a strange way to gather possessions, but that's exactly what happens. You read the Exodus story. As we go along, you'll see the story when we get to it. God is telling him what's going to happen 400 years from now, 400 plus years from this point. He's telling Abram, look, this is what's going to happen to your descendants. But look, for yourself, don't worry. You're not going to make it that long, but you're going to die at a nice old age. So even though you won't see all this, I'm telling you, this is going to happen through your descendants. So this is already, hey, you're going to have a descendant. You're going to have many descendants. So many you're not going to be able to count them. And look, even then, 400 years, they're going to be serving in Egypt. Then they leave with great possessions. And then they will return to this land. Now, and he even says after that, in the fourth generation. So each generation was like 100 years, essentially, is what he was saying. Have you ever stopped to think about how Abram heard this? I mean, how would you hear it? Don't tell me for a moment that there wouldn't at least be a thought in his mind, and maybe it's just me, To say, God, well, if you wanted us to have possessions and have the land, why not just have my descendants stay here? Right? I mean, that would be what we would want. Go from point A to point B. But look at how many things they would not learn. They would not learn to have faith in God, to trust Him in difficult circumstances. They would not have seen all the miracles and even the judgment and the plagues that came on Egypt. They would not have been able to see the power of God and the rescue of God as they came through the Red Sea. And even as we go through this and you see the way that God had orchestrated things to get them, the people to be born there and to populate there in Egypt, to get there even by way of Joseph, which it came to play in a very strange way, came to light in a very strange way. But then for them to have all these possessions, have all these things, it seems like there's got to be an easier way. Now, while you're thinking about that, you've probably thought about something in your own life that you've already asked God, God, isn't there a simpler way? Isn't there a better way? Well, here's all I can tell you. Every time I've tried to go my own way, it has not been simpler. It has not been easier. I may have gotten to a point quicker, but I never got to where God wanted me any quicker. If anything, when I went my own way, it took me twice as long to get there. Because by the time I figured out my path was wrong and God's way was right, then I had to get back on the right path and continue the journey He had for me already. The same would be true even for the descendants of Abram. No wonder, as he's talking about, think about this, he's talking about 400 years from now, but did you catch one of the other reasons? It is the last thing we read. For the punishment and the judgment of the Amorites is not yet complete. Something that had essentially had nothing to do with them at the moment was still in God's plan to deal with them. How many times in that 400 years do you think it was passed down that people say, how in the world did the Amorites, how in the world did they spit in the face of God and He hasn't dealt with them? But He was going to deal with them in a way that used God's people to take possession of the land. That ought to just even these few verses and to look at all the time that it covers and all the circumstances that it entails. And it summarizes here in these few verses, in these few words. That ought to show us that yes, God's plan may seem strange to you or to me, but God's way is always better. It is infinitely better because His ways are not our ways, our thoughts are not His thoughts, and vice versa. And I don't know about you, but I'm glad His way is not my way because He's God. He knows everything. And so while I make decisions based on what I see today, God is leading and guiding us based on everything that He sees for all eternity in front of us. And for that, we need to trust in Him. And honestly, it's strange that we don't. God bless you. And I pray you have a great, great day.